Many people have been asking the following question: is God, or was God, maximally great prior to creation? Let's dive into it. God exists timelessly without creation. He has a timeless intention to create the universe and to fulfill the obligations associated with his essential nature. But some of these obligations are not required to be met until time begins. Also, it is illogical to ask what was God doing prior to or before creation, as there was no prior to or before. Because again, time does not begin to exist or come into being until the first mover moves and the first event occurs. Now, when we talk about being maximally great, we are referring to a God being the GCB, or the greatest conceivable being. But when we say greatest conceivable being, that is to say the greatest being possible. And remember, God cannot do logical absurdities or that which violates his own essential nature. So, what must the GCB necessarily be prior to creation? Well, in God's pre-creation state, he obviously has not created anything at all yet. So, it is maximally great to have the intention to act until you actually do act. One could not imagine a being greater than this who could exist in a pre-creation state. Thus, we can determine that God is maximally great and the greatest possible being prior to creation. Only a free agent can account for the origin of a temporal effect from a timeless cause. If the cause of the universe were an impersonal, mechanically operating cause, it wouldn't have volition or the ability to withhold intention in any way. The cause couldn't exist without the effect. For if the sufficient conditions were eternally present, then the effect would be eternally present as well. The only way for the cause to be timeless and the effect to begin in time is for the cause to be a personal agent who freely chooses to create the effect in time without any antecedent determining factors or conditions. So the God of theistic essentialism is, in fact, the greatest possible being prior to creation. To refute this, one would have to be able to present a God which would be greater in a spaceless, timeless, immaterial, pre-creation state than the God that we have just described. And this is logically impossible. So, let's have a quick recap. The universe necessarily cannot be eternal in the past, which means there necessarily had to be a moment where the universe did not exist. Therefore, it is necessary that there was a situation where God existed sans the universe. Now, with that being said, God is perfect in every possible necessary situation. And in that necessary state of pre-creation, he was the greatest possible being that could exist, as there is no possible being that could exist in that necessary sans the universe state which could be greater than he. Also, it is important to remember again that God cannot undermine or violate the laws of logic, and God was necessarily spaceless and timeless and immaterial prior to creation. So in conclusion, we see that God is, in fact, the greatest possible being sans the universe and also the GCB after creation as well. Thank you guys for joining. I'll see you next time.